had been on The View a lot of times, and the ladies on The View are very passionate about their views.
Their one view.
Your husband is the least qualified Department of Health and Human Services head.
It is odd to be in the hot seat for someone else. I was in the hot seat fielding questions, sometimes just statements on behalf of Bobby. So that was strange. The left, some people are very emotional and upset. My experience with the right, they have been accepting and warm. I had been through a lot of training for improv. Otherwise, I would never have gotten that part on Curb Your Enthusiasm because, like you said, there was no script.
But were you ever worried that you guys were going to step in it or there was going to be any blowback? Because somehow the show totally skipped cancel culture.
Oh, my God.
He might say before the scene, you're going to tell me that your parents are coming to stay for 3 weeks. I would know, even from that information, 3 weeks is a long time for anybody to stay with someone.
Right.
I can only imagine that this is not going to go well with Larry.
How is your relationship with him now, knowing that, you know, he is kind of, from where I sit, he's a crazy lefty? I'm Dave Rubin. This is The Rubin Report, and I am thrilled to be kinda, sorta, hopefully not doing too much politics today because joining me is award-winning actress and author of the new book, Unscripted, Cheryl Hines. Cheryl, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just fine. As I said to you for the 10 seconds before we started recording, I'm thrilled to be talking to you because I actually am a fan. Our worlds have sort of collided over time, sort of through Bobby, also through comedy and a bunch of stuff. So I thought it would be interesting because I've played a bunch of the clips from your book tour on the show. And it's sort of interesting because the book obviously is mostly about Curb and your career and everything else. And of course, you talk about the Bobby stuff in politics too. But I thought it's been interesting watching you do media now where you're thought of as political because of your husband, even though that's not, it's not really what the book is, but it's not really what you are. And I just sort of wonder now that you're a few weeks into the tour, the book tour, and doing all these interviews, how do you feel about that in and of itself?
Well, it is a different world because I've been married to Bobby for over 10 years and it hasn't really been the lead off to interviews before,
Right.
But now it is. And it's, I just have to be ready. For whatever comes at me, regarding him. So it's a different way to do interviews, I guess.
Yeah. And I saw you sitting down with our mutual friend, Bill Maher, and you said something that I thought was super interesting was that, as you guys got welcome, you're a Hollywood person. So now suddenly you're kind of welcomed in these right-wing circles and that it was surprising for you to find that these people were kind of nice and kind. And I went through a version of that myself 10 years ago when I was kind of evolving. And are you still kind of surprised by it that these conservatives are usually pretty kind of nice and open-minded and tolerant and decent and all that stuff?
Yeah, I am. I mean, that being said, I don't know what I was expecting. I guess I was expecting, the flip side of what I'm experiencing with maybe the left, because the left, some people are very emotional and upset, and then my experience with the right has been they have been accepting and warm, and sometimes they'll even say, I know that, we don't agree on politics or some things, but they seem more willing to find common ground and just accept you as you are. So that's been a little surprising.
I have to tell you, and then I promised I started this by saying we're not going to talk politics. So we're just going to get it out. We're just getting all this nonsense out of the way. And then we'll get into comedy and all the other stuff. I don't know if you were there, but, before the election, there was the Restore the Rally event in D.C. that Bobby headlined. And I spoke there and a bunch of other people spoke. And it was right after the Maha and MAGA thing kind of came together. And I kid you not, that was the day I really thought something special was happening here. Because to see all of these kind of like old hippies that loved Bobby, suddenly with the MAGA people with the red hat, I was like, man, this thing actually is unstoppable. So it's just to me, it's just very cool adventure that you guys have been on. That's not even a question.
No, but you're right. I mean, that's what I have liked about Bobby connecting with people is that the ideas that he's talking about being healthier really hits with everybody, and it crosses party lines, which is nice. I mean, that's what we should be doing, is listening and seeing, issue by issue, what we respond to and what we connect to. And he has a way of doing that with people, which I think is admirable.
Right. So I promise we're almost there. So is that a little, I can't stop myself, but
By the way, that's not, that's
I know.
been child's play.
No, I know, but I could talk Curb with you for like 17 hours. So I just want to get this stuff out of the way, because also I watched you on The View and I was thinking, boy, if Cheryl was on The View 5 years ago, Curb's on the air and you just went on 5 years ago to talk about Curb and Larry and comedy and all that, they would have been fawning all over you and Joy would have been sitting in your lap and all the rest of it. And then I watched you on there and it's like, I'm not a huge fan of Sunny Hostin. Everyone knows that. It's just like the need to go after you because of your husband. It just feels so thin. Like, what is that like sitting there?
It is, different, like you're talking about, because I had been on The View a lot of times in the past. But I know that people and the ladies on The View are very passionate about their views.
They're one view.
They're one view.
Yeah.
So it is odd to be in the hot seat for someone else. So I was in the hot seat fielding questions, sometimes just statements on behalf of Bobby. So that was strange, kind of. But now, I'm used to it now. I get it. I understand it. That's what they want to talk about. That's what's on their mind. That's what, they had a lot of questions. So it's different.
So now watch how I can then turn this towards career stuff.
Okay.
So while you're sitting there on some of these shows in a slightly combative or whatever you want, having to answer for your husband or whatever it is, which I thought on The View you did a great job at one point when they were like, his extremist views and you were like, well, which extremist views? And then they all get quiet at the same time.
Yeah.
But so watch how we'll shift this. Were you consciously like kind of using some of the skills that you learned through Curb and working with Larry and all those guys, where it was just like, you have to play through, there's no script here? I would imagine some of that must have come through.
Absolutely. Right. So I titled my book Unscripted because Curb Your Enthusiasm was unscripted. It was all improvised, and it is a very helpful tool, especially when you're being interviewed, when you're talking to people, because you have to listen because there's no script. You can't be thinking about what you're going to say ahead of time because you don't know what the question's going to be or what someone's going to say to you. So I think those improv skills do help me stay present and stay focused on the person that's talking to me.
So when you guys shot the original Curb, which was, most people don't know, it wasn't the half-hour show. It was sort of a mockumentary. What year was that? Do you even remember? Got to be early, like 2004, maybe something like that.
You know what? You're going to be embarrassed when I say it. I'm even embarrassed when I say it. We shot that in 1999.
Oh my God! I mean, that's
I don't know if it aired in 99 or if it aired in 2000, but that's when it was all happening.
Wow, that is wild. So you shoot that hour show, which at that point they didn't know was going to turn into the sitcom. And I remember watching that, even though I knew Larry through Seinfeld, really, not through, there wasn't a ton of him on camera before that. But I remember watching that, not fully getting whether it was real or not. And that's how good you guys were. I mean, that's true.
Well, thank you for that. And that's, all credited to Larry because he wanted it to seem real, and there were real people on the show. Richard Lewis, Jerry Seinfeld was on that 1 hour special. And so you had real people. And when they cast me, I had heard that they were looking for an unknown actress. So that worked in my favor. But somebody that they, could blur the line with, that, if somebody famous came on the screen, they'd say, "Oh, that's the actress from, whatever." But because it was me, and nobody had really seen me unless you saw Swamp Thing.
I did see Swamp Thing, actually. I am a child of the 80s. Wait, but honestly, I don't remember that you were in it. But
well, no, because you probably saw the movie.
Yeah,
which
the movie.
Would make sense. No,
Yeah.
And then they did a TV show based on the movie
Oh.
that was shot in Orlando, and I had a really great part in one episode.
Oh, wow. So you were a big star before all of this.
Huge.
The movie was actually pretty great. All right, I'm going to hunt that episode down and see what's what. So you get the gig as Larry's wife, but you were an actress, and you are an actress, used to be reading lines. So how did you want to do it that way? Did you like it? How crazy was that learning curve?
Well, I was already performing at a theater called the Groundlings in Los Angeles, which is all improv and sketch comedy. So I had been through a lot of training for improv. Otherwise, I would never have gotten that part on Curb Your Enthusiasm because, like you said, there was no script. And even when I went into audition, there's no script. They didn't tell me anything about the show, what I was auditioning for. So I actually really like working that way. It's really different, as an actor, because all of my training before that was the answer is in the script.
Right.
Everything you need to know about your performance is in the script. Every comma, everything that other characters say about you, all the answers are there. And then once you learn to disconnect from all of that, and then you learn that all the answers are in the person that you're doing the scene with. And it's a really fun way to work. Yeah.
So to that point, I've seen Larry talk about this on a couple interviews, but basically he would just give you he'd be like, okay, we're in the bedroom, and you would sort of just know where it kind of has to end. And then you were pretty much playing around the whole time.
Well, no, sometimes we wouldn't even know where it has to end, but Larry would write a story outline. So we might, he might say before the scene, you're going to tell me that your parents are coming to stay for 3 weeks. That's it. That's all he would say. But I would know, even from that information, 3 weeks is a long time for anybody to stay with someone.
Right.
I can only imagine that this is not going to go well with Larry. But so I would kind of, that's all the information I would get, and that's the information I would use. So we would do the scene. There would be no rehearsal. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you that this made me laugh at the time. There was no rehearsal, which as an actor, you usually have rehearsal for performance and for camera. But we had 2 cameras rolling all the time, and they were handheld, and it was just, grabbing whoever was speaking. But this one actress, great actress, was guest starring, and we were about to do a scene about looking at a house.
You guys did move a lot. which I
We
remember
moved
hearing Larry. I saw Larry speak at the 92nd Street Y once, and one time he said one season we moved just because they lost the lease on the house, the film company.
Yeah, we always had a different house and we never even said why. But the actress, before the scene, we don't talk about the scene, we don't rehearse it. If anything, we do gibberish just to let the camera crew know where I might walk over here, blah blah blah. I might say something to Larry, then I might sit down. That would be as much as we'd rehearse. So before the scene started, this actress comes over and she says to me and Larry, "How long have you two been looking at houses?" And I said, "Oh, not that long." And Larry said, "What are we doing?" I said, "Oh, this is, an actor's previous moment before the scene starts." And he's like, we don't. We don't do that." And I felt so sorry for this great actress that's just trying to, commit to the craft.
So to that point, did you find that some of the cast of characters enjoyed that more than others? Like, to me, it always seemed like Susie, really must have freaking loved dropping those F-bombs. And you know who I think was like the unsung hero of the show, actually, was Super Dave Osborne. I mean, he was... It was almost insane how funny he was, actually, because it was so straight and dry, and he was just unbelievable.
He was so crazy and funny, like you said. And then sometimes we'd be doing a scene, and in the middle of the scene, he'd say to Larry, well, remember when Cheryl and I went away together for a week? And Larry's like, "What are you doing?" "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "No good." And Larry's like, how would that fit into what's going on here? But yeah, he was always very, very funny.
Did some of the guys like it more, the crazy improv stuff, and some not, or some get in there and just not be able to do it the way you thought they could?
Well, that's a good question, because a lot of people had to audition even if they were established actors, because it is a different way of working.
Yeah.
And some actors don't like it. Some actors are, like I said, they're trained to read from a script and get their information. Once in a while, I was in the casting sessions, especially probably the first 5 seasons or something. But an actor would come in to improvise with, us, the cast members. And sometimes that would throw actors off the bat, because you usually, as an actor, are not going in to audition with the people that are in the show. And then I remember one guy who auditioned. He was a young guy. This is after the show had been on for a little while. And, once again, there's no script. And he was doing an improv with Larry, and he could not stop laughing. And Larry said, What are you doing?" He goes, "I don't know. You make me laugh so much. I cannot." And Larry said, "Well, you have to do the scene. I mean, you got to get through the scene." And they'd start the scene again, and he would laugh so much. And then, Larry, everybody's laughing, but Larry's like, "I can't cast you. You can't even do the scene." In the audition, he's like, "I know I can't. Don't cast me. I won't be able to do it."
And he didn't get the gig, I take it.
No, didn't get the gig.
I mean, that's funny. Well, how did you feel in the sort of season and a half when you were in it, towards the end, where you were in it much less because of the divorce and everything? Because I thought, even though I'm blanking on her name, the black actress that was his wife at that point, Vivica Fox, thank you. Even though they were great together, they really were. The obvious thing was the love between you guys and the good cop, bad cop thing. And when that was gone, I do think it shifted the show a little bit.
Yeah. It was hard. It was hard because I love Larry, and I loved Larry and Cheryl together. And I remember, I don't know what season it was, but I remember a scene. So this must have been after we got divorced or separated or something. We were at a party. This is in the scene.
Yeah.
I think John Legend was singing. if that makes sense. And I was dancing with the guy that I had met on the plane when I
Yeah.
thought the plane was going down, and I called Larry to say goodbye and I love you, and the TiVo guy was there and he couldn't talk to me.
Right.
That's what sparked
The divorce. Yeah.
the divorce.
Yeah.
But I remember I was dancing with my guy and he was dancing with Vivica, and I looked over at them dancing, and it got to me, and then I drove home thinking, why am I so upset about Larry dancing with Vivica? This is a TV show. I need to bring it down. It's okay. It's okay. But it did make me sad, you know?
Did he sit you down and say, hey, you're not going to be in it as much, for this next season and a half or whatever it was?
Well, I did get a call from him saying, well, I got to tell you something that you're not going to love it. I said, okay. And he said, we're going to do another season, but you're not going to be in it. I said, okay. He said, I want to date on the show. I feel like I have some funny stuff to do. And so they did a season in New York.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in it at all.
Yeah.
And then after that, I didn't know if I would ever be in it, because of the storyline. But then the season after that, I was in it. Not as much as it was, but it was nice to go back.
How was Ted Danson, going back to that acting thing for a second? Because here's a guy who comes out of, traditional like sitcom, we're going to tell you when to laugh track stuff. And you're working with all these guys that have come out of the stand-up world, really. But he seemed pretty great to me at it. But
he's so great, and he's a great actor anyway because he does really listen. But the thing that he does so well is he knows what will bother Larry. So when we were shooting the scenes, he knows exactly what would bother Larry. If Ted and I were in a scene and we're sitting on the couch, and Larry's in mid-sentence, Ted might reach over and hold my hand and rub my leg or something. Just little tiny things that he knows.
Yeah.
Will bother Larry, but he's so great at that. And he always knew what his role was on the show. His role was just to drive Larry crazy.
And
yeah.
I mean,
As
and
a matter of fact,
he did, yeah.
One of the episodes I loved was The Anonymous.
Oh yeah. With
Joker?
Yeah. I'm anonymous.
Yeah. We go to a fundraiser. And everybody's and Larry had donated a lot. And then this anonymous donor had donated. And everybody's making a big deal about the anonymous donor because, wow, they didn't even want credit for it. This is amazing. And then, Ted comes up and says, I'm the anonymous donor. And Larry's like, why are you telling us if you were anonymous? And I'm like, wow, that is amazing, Ted.
Yeah.
I love that. And then, of course, the more we talk about it, the crazier it makes Larry.
Right, really and then he's getting beat up by those guys at the end, and he can't get in because he's anonymous, but they don't believe him. It was so brilliant. I mean, were there episodes that you guys would be doing, and somehow for whatever reason he would change the end, or was the end just kind of always basically there?
The end was always there. The end was always there. But you know what's interesting? When I watched the finale of the series finale, because I had not seen it until it aired, I kept thinking, I wonder if there's an ending to this that I don't know about. Because we all get on we're all on a plane, and I thought for 1 second, is the plane going to go down?
Right.
Are we all just going to die at the end of this episode? Because that seemed like something that Larry might do, but I won't spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it.
I'm pretty sure anyone watching my show has seen it, or I've referenced every episode, 100 times or whatever. But how much do you think the fact that, and I thought the ending of Seinfeld was great, and I know Larry, I think, liked it more than it was received, I guess. But do you think that was really like ringing in his head that people sort of turned on it at the end of Seinfeld, that then he had to do the ending a little bit differently? Because when you guys all got on the plane at the end, I actually thought they were just going to recreate it again and that the plane was going to start crashing or something like that.
Uh, I think by that time in Larry's career, he did not give a flying fuckerball what anybody
Yeah.
thought. But that being said, we did do a season with a Seinfeld reunion,
Yeah.
and that was part of the joke in the storyline. Was people kept saying how bad the
Right.
ending of Seinfeld was, which is, was of course insulting to Larry, and he's standing right there, and he's like, it wasn't that bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was bad. It was bad. Let's
Yeah.
let's do this better. So we, but that's Larry's gift because he can laugh at himself. It's really funny.
Were you ever worried about any of the racial stuff? Obviously, there was a ton of racial stuff and a ton of making fun of mentally handicapped people and Jews and Muslims and Christian. I mean, everything. But were you ever worried that you guys were going to step in it or there was going to be any blowback? Because somehow the show totally skipped cancel culture.
I don't know how. I really do not know how. But I wouldn't say I was worried, but it was pretty interesting that it seemed to skip over. I'll say us, but it was really Larry. You know what I mean? But it is surprising. But maybe by the time cancel culture rolled around, Larry had already made fun of
Right.
everybody. And so people knew he wasn't targeting one group. And he makes fun of himself so much that I guess he got grandfathered in.
Probably. What was it like working with Richard Lewis? Because if I could just tell you for 1 second, truly one of the best moments of my career was I interviewed Richard Lewis when we still lived in LA, and he came to my house, and I loved, obviously you can see how much I love the show, and I've loved him since I saw him on Young Comics on HBO in like 1982 or something. And at the end of the interview, we had such a great time together. And, obviously he was a germaphobe, sort of. Larry's got a lot of that, and I'm sure he probably didn't touch you that often. But when he walked in, he gave me the fist bump, kind of the Larry David fist bump. But at the end, as he was walking out of my house, he goes, Dave, I want you to know, you're a really great interviewer. And he put his hand on my face like this. And it was just like this, bizarrely nice moment. I was like, I can't believe it. He doesn't touch anyone. And he like this. And I was like, I'm always going to remember that. Richard Lewis touched my face.
Yeah.
What was it like working with him?
Well, I do write about this in my book because I loved Richard. Oh,
Yeah.
And like you, I was a huge fan of his before I got to work with him on Curb. And when I was younger, I used to have the biggest crush on Richard Lewis.
Really?
Oh my gosh. He did a show with
Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah.
And I would watch the show every week and just think, oh, Richard Lewis. So when I got to work with him, it was, next atmosphere. I was so happy. And he, like you're saying, he had a very sweet, soulful side to him. And even though everybody's always doing comedy bits on shows, especially on Curb, everybody's funny and everybody's doing bits. Richard would, he would pull you aside and say, hey, I really love you.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing, man. You're the best out there. It was so sweet,
Yeah. Did you know, not to get too personal, but did you know that his health was really failing at the end? Because clearly, when you watch the shows, he wasn't himself anymore. And obviously, Dave Osborne also passed away during the show. And I think, did Shelley Berman also pass away during? Yeah, so a few of the mainstays of the show passed away while you guys were shooting.
Well, he never talked about a specific health issue, but we had worked together for so long. We had worked together. I mean, the span of Curb Your Enthusiasm was over 24 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
So
crazy.
it's so crazy. So we could tell, that um, he was struggling in some aspects, and we just needed to take extra good care of him.
Yeah.
So you could tell it was harder for him towards the end.
So now I'm going doing my catalog of who else was on the show over the years. And this actress you did not have a scene with, and she was only in once, but I'm hoping that maybe you met her, because my 3 favorite shows of all time are Curb, Seinfeld, and Golden Girls. Did you get to meet B. Arthur when she played Larry's mom in that heaven scene?
I
Please
did
tell me yes.
not.
Ah,
I did not, which is too bad. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because when I was writing this book, I went back through, because I write about Curb a lot in the book, and I wanted to make sure I have the right dates and the right episode. And I watched that episode again
it's
when Larry dies for a moment, goes to heaven.
yeah.
Yeah, and B. Arthur is his mom. His mom, right?
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah, his mom. Yeah. I'm not through with you, Buster.
it was that episode is so crazy. I mean, Sacha Baron Cohen
Yeah,
and
yeah,
um
yeah.
uh
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman were his, spiritual guides in heaven. It was killing me watching it again. But I write about it in the book because just being on Curb and, once again being a trained actress, but there's no script. When Larry dies in that episode, we're all standing around
Yeah.
his hospital bed, and I'm holding his hand, and I watch him take his last breath, and he closes his eyes, and I got so teary. And after the take, Larry said, "What are you doing?" I said, "It's sad." And he said, "Don't cry. No, don't cry." I said, "Well, you just died." He said, "No, go right to Jeff. Ask him about the money that he owes you for the car, because
Right.
he didn't pay enough for that car." And I said, okay, you're right. I'll skip over the tears and go right to, you owe me money.
He just never wanted to do emotional, right? Because that shot that you're talking about when he dies, they shot it from above. It's a really nice shot, actually, and the music kind of gets sanguine for a moment. But then, yeah, it immediately gets into everybody fighting. So he just never wanted any of that, right? Even with Seinfeld, he never wanted that, like the cheesy.
No. And there would be times when, especially in the beginning, we had a lot of, this is going to sound much sexier than it was. We had a lot of bed scenes together. We were in bed a lot, just like waking up or going to bed or whatever. Or not your typical HBO bed
Right.
scenes.
Yeah.
But I remember we were going to bed. We were going to sleep. We're going to bed. I said goodnight, and I kissed him goodnight. And he, after the take, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Kissing you goodnight." He said, "Yeah, we don't do that." I said, "Okay." Well, people do that. Just so you know, there are couples out there that that's normal. He's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, we don't do it." Okay. So even that, is just he has a specific style.
How is your relationship with him now, knowing that, he is kind of from where I sit, he's a crazy lefty. I love him, and I always try to separate the art from the artist. But, seeing you and Bobby now, has that created any weirdness or whatever?
Well, I haven't seen him since we finished the show. So if I saw him, I think things would be fine. I think he might have something to say about the current political landscape. Because I know I know he's not happy with
Yeah. Yeah.
politics the way they are. So that would be, I would expect that. But I wouldn't expect him to, come up and call me names or anything.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that.
Do you want to stay? I mean, is your goal right now, like for the rest of your career, is it that you want to keep sort of diving in and out of acting and doing some of this activist stuff and kind of be in there with Bobby? Or is there like, have you enjoyed being on the book tour and dealing with some of the nonsense that we kind of started with and all the rest of it?
I definitely have become accustomed to it. Like sort of merging my two worlds, because at first I'm not going to lie, it was challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I did not expect that. I never expected politics to be a part of my life. But now I'm definitely finding a balance. I'm producing a film, which is very exciting.
What is it? What is it?
I can't tell you.
Oh, you can't. Oh, okay.
I can't tell you yet. I'll tell you. I'll tell you when we're off.
On the next tour. Oh, yeah.
On the
When we
next
stop
tour.
this. Yeah.
But I'm producing a film, and that's really fun, and it's going to be a fun film. And at the same time, it's, I'm Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s wife. So there's a way to do both, to do it all. But it doesn't, some days are harder than others, I'll be honest.
Are there any seed oils in your house right now?
No. No, there are not. I know that they somehow tricked him into eating a Big Mac, but does he ever waver on any of this? I think I've had 2 meals with him. It was pretty clean. But does he ever waver? He does waver sometimes, but not very often. But, he cannot help himself sometimes. We were just in North Carolina, and we were at some great restaurant where it's Southern cooking, and he had a bite of something. I forget what it was, but it was not on his usual. Maybe it was I want to say fried okra, but that's probably not true, because what was it fried in? But it was something along those lines. It was not typical. And he doesn't eat a whole plate of it, but he might pick and choose.
Are you fully on board all the Maha stuff? Like, is that part of I assume it's part of your lifestyle at some extent, but like health wise and all that stuff, like, are you just on board everything he's pushing out there?
Yes. I'm not as disciplined about it as he is. But so much of it is common sense, really. And a lot of it I've always been doing, especially ultra processed foods, once you cut those out. But I mean, I still put sugar in my coffee. There are still things that I
Well,
like.
now I know which clip is going viral.
It's just in. I wish that would be the biggest scandal we have out there. But yeah, I veer off more than he does. But I also have a what's the word? I can take or leave something, and if I take a bite of something and it's really great, I can be okay walking away from it and saying, "Oh, that was good." But he does not have that kind of personality. So that's why he won't even take a bite of something, because if he likes it, then he'll have to eat the whole thing. Yeah. So I have a little more of we'll see. I mean, I guess I could say discipline in that regard. Yeah. I'm more of yeah, some people can take whatever it is, a bite of a donut, and put it down and walk away, and some people cannot. Some people can, I don't know, take a sip of wine and walk away, and some people cannot. But I'm one of those people that can, okay, that was good, I can walk away.
Listen, I could do, as you can tell, I could do Curb literally all day long. But I know you're talking to
Still
people
busy.
all day long. So I will end with this because I think you'll find this interesting and it feels sort of full circle to me that when Bobby announced he did my show about when he was running as a Democrat, he did my show about 2 weeks later. We had never met. We did it on Zoom like this. And I said to him about 20 minutes in, I said, Bobby, I don't know if you are going to be a Republican at the end of this thing, but I know you will not be a Democrat. And his eyes, I can send you the clip, his eyes went like this. And I've told him this a couple of times, and he says he repeats it every now and again now because it was so obvious to me what was going to happen with that party and where his evolution was going to be. But it's so incredible what you guys have done. And I mean that for both of you because the health thing, like, it has nothing to do with politics, and I'm healthier now. It's like a thing in my studio after Bobby came here. We're all like on our glow up together. So,
Well,
yeah, so
it's
it's
funny
great.
that you say that because, that journey of Bobby running, that I also write about in my book. But yes, at the beginning, we could have never imagined how that story would end. But even
I
when
tried to warn him.
I know, and even when he switched from Democrat to independent, when somebody I think it was Dennis Kucinich who said, "This is what you should do because you have no path forward as a Democrat." The first time we heard that, we both thought, I don't think that will ever happen."
Right.
But
Yeah.
you knew.
Yeah. I just knew how radical they had become, and I knew he was sane and decent and the Kennedy that my parents loved, and it just had nothing to do with those people. But wait, we can't end on politics. Let me ask one other Curb-related thing. You must have answered this on the tour already, or at least written about in the book. Favorite episode?
Oh, well, I really like. There are a lot of favorites, right? But I like the episode, which is based on a true story, where my family makes a nativity scene out of
Yeah.
cookies, and
Wait, that's the nail? That's the nail episode? Or is that
no,
no, that's not the nail episode. Whoa.
but this is so. My family makes a nativity scene, and then Larry,
Oh,
there's cookies, and Larry eats baby Jesus and Mary.
yeah.
And then my family goes crazy. And then he hires, actors to do a live nativity scene. This was all based on a true story because that's what was happening at my house in Florida when I went
Oh my
home.
God.
And I called Larry and I said, if you were, and everybody was walking around the house saying, nobody eat baby Jesus. Talking about the cookies in the nativity scene. And I said, if you were here, you'd eat baby Jesus and my family would go crazy. And then he did the Jesus, Mary, and Larry episode.
Yeah, right. And then he gets into a fight with one of the actors. And,
Well, yeah, with Dave Keckner,
yeah,
who was hilarious. And I also just watched that not too long ago because the show was on for so many years. I really had to go back through and watch it. But I forgot that episode, this is also awful. Larry had a pubic hair stuck in his throat. Mm-hmm. So when I watched that episode, because I didn't remember that part, but he's now getting in a fist fight with Joseph, played by Dave Keckner. And, he's like, and Dave says, what's going on? He goes, I have a pubic hair stuck in my throat. You know how it is, and he's dressed as Joseph. And then at some point, the hair comes loose and it's just, a definite Curb moment. But one thing that I want to say is, I know that we've been calling, or I'll say you, have been talking about Bob Einstein as Dave Osborne.
Oh, right.
Because that was his.
Super Dave Osborne was the character, but you're totally right. And of course
but just putting that out there because Bob was so crazy. You know what? One
And
thing,
he's Albert Brooks's brother also. I mean,
yes,
I thank you for cleaning that up for me.
yeah. Um, but Bob would. One of the things that he'd do that was so crazy. We'd be doing a scene where we're in the living room and it's right after a funeral and everybody's quiet and some of the extras, the atmosphere actors, you know, they might, someone might be wearing, I don't know, too much makeup or this weird tie or something that's just a little bit different. And in between scenes, Bob would yell to Larry, "This is your aunt. Look at your aunt right now." And and everyone's like, "Oh." But just no sense of editing oneself.
But that was the magic. That was the
That was
magic.
magic. That was magic. He was great.
Cheryl, I have seriously thoroughly enjoyed this. Politics is
thank you.
driving me a little nutty, and this was a joy.
Thank you so much. I will see you next time.
Yes. Next time, and I should also mention, you are a Florida girl at heart. You were born in Florida, right? I don't go
am.
back to LA that often. I'm not sure I'm welcome there anymore. So maybe you come this way.
Yes. I'm in Florida a lot. My whole family's in Florida.
Excellent. I will reach out to you via private channels.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks so much, Cheryl.